Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's November 23rd, and this is your pre-Thanksgiving long weekend fishing forecast. We're still hearing about great striped bass fishing across southern New England. We're also hearing about awesome freshwater fishing out on the Cape, and there's been more double-digit tog caught in the last 10 days to give anybody out there something to be thankful.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
So before we begin, I just want to talk about a couple of news points here. The first one is that tog season, blackfish season in Connecticut is going to close on the 28th, so that's Monday. That means you've got 5 days to make it happen if you want to get one more tog in Connecticut. The weather doesn't look great for that, but just, find that window and get out there. I think there's going to be quite a few disappointed anglers because the way things have been going the last 3 weeks in Connecticut, it doesn't seem like it's going to be anywhere close to slowing down before the season closes, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. The other thing, of course, is the giveaway, which is ongoing and has been for quite some time now. We're going to wrap this one up on December 22nd. I got a few entries this week, but I still don't have a clear winner. We're giving away a Googleman bunker-colored pikey and a Yozuri hydro twitch bait in the mackerel color. And all you got to do is send them to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or text them to the number on the screen. And again, we're going to pick a winner on December 22nd or thereabouts, and somebody's going to get a little holiday gift from me. And we're going to start things off in Massachusetts as we always do, and it sounds like the striper fishing up in Plum Island and in that general area is finally winding to a close. And talked to James. He said, things seem like pretty much over. So let's get a little report from him.
Well, Plum Island is almost officially dead. I made a couple trips over the weekend and took a couple of skunks. It was really cold. Water temperature still seemed okay, but this air temperature has cooled off that surface so much. I'm sure we're going to be dropping down to 50 minus degrees, so who knows. I'm done for the season up here, as well as most guys. Anybody who's out chasing stripers right now is heading south, or they're targeting some holdovers up here. I don't target holdovers. I know where to get them. There's no need to harass those little guys. Anyways, on to some fresh water. Maybe find me some largemouth and a pike or some carp. So we'll do that before ice fishing season starts in about a month. And I'm heading to the woods too. So, all right, Dave, that's it from up here.
And, that's going to hold true for striper fishermen kind of heading all the way down through Boston. There are still some fish kind of in that east end of the canal region. Doesn't matter if you're on Scusset Beach or Town Neck, there's still some stripers there. They're going to be mostly small to micro. You may find a keeper in there, if you really put some time in or if you really get lucky. But that fishery is going to quickly wind to a close now. And, it's just a sign of the season. There's not much you can do about it. The other saltwater thing that is going on, although we didn't hear really any reports about it this week just because it's been so windy and rough out there, but the haddock and pollock fishery is still going on. You can hop on any party boat that heads out of Gloucester, Boston, Green Harbor, or anywhere in between, and they'll get you out there and get you on some fish. Out on the Cape itself, not a lot of saltwater reports to pass along. The only one that I have from the outer Cape is some news of some, wreck-sized bluefin out on Stellwagen. I think it was just one day last week when it was possible to get out there. These fish were in the 40 to 50 inch class, and the ones I heard about were taken on topwater, so that's exciting. But again, the weather doesn't look great for the next 5 to 6, 7 days, so it might be tough to get out there, but that fishery continues to produce some fish for those that can get out there. The freshwater fishing on Cape Cod has been amazing. It seems to happen every year as we kind of transition into the slide into winter. It just really starts to pop off. The Cape has roughly 1 million ponds, and seems like all of them have something to offer, and about half of them seem to be stocked with trout. And that trout fishery that they have out there is fantastic. Those fish are aggressive. They are, they're of many different sizes. You can catch some really nice fish out there, and they will take a variety of different methods. You can catch them on bait, you can catch them on spinners and spoons, you can catch them on jerk baits and Ed rigs. They're pretty cooperative, and they are very abundant. The bass fishing is also just looking really good out there. It's kind of switching over now to more of a finesse game. Guys are getting them on Ned rigs, jigs, blade baits, and my favorite, the suspending jerk bait. So that fishery is producing some really nice fish and really good action. The only other saltwater fishing that I'm hearing about on Cape Cod is coming from the Nantucket Sound beaches, kind of heading up into Falmouth area. There are still some stripers bopping along those beaches and in and out of those inlets there. Same could be said for the south side of the vineyard. And there's also still some tog in some of the rocky spots out there. You got to fish deep, but there are still some tog out there. And again, same story out in the vineyard. Punch through into Buzzards Bay and things get a little bit more interesting. There's a few more stripers in that area. There's a lot more tog to be caught, especially if you head out west toward Westport. Jason Colby's going to wrap up his season this week, but I know he's still getting some really nice fish. And, solid fish in that 7 to pushing 10 pound range have been fairly common. So if you've got some time on your hands, and the season stays open in Massachusetts right to the end of the year, so you get a nice day like today, and you can get out there and put a few more tog in the freezer before the winter comes. Up inside the canal, there are still striped bass to be caught. It's definitely dwindling down quickly. Most of these fish are small. They're 18 to 25 inch fish, but there is the occasional slot fish, and you can't ever rule out a decent fish running through the canal. It's a funnel, it's a shortcut, and even just last year, I remember getting an email from one of our readers talking about right at the end of November, when nobody else is fishing, getting into a really good jig bite, a fish up into the mid 20 pound class. So it happens, but it only happens to the guys who are out there trying. So if you're interested in that, stay the course. Keep throwing those jigs, and you never know what you might catch at the canal. Last thing in Massachusetts, it's going to be the inland freshwater fishing, and for that, we're going to toss it over now to Roy Leyve.
Hey Dave, Roy Leyve here with this week's Western Mass Report. We've been battling some below normal temps, so really if you're heading out to do any bass fishing, expect a skim coat on some of the backwaters, back coves and backwaters, as well as some of the smaller ponds. Ice has been gone usually by mid-morning to early afternoon, depending on the wind and how hot the sun's been throughout the day, which really, for me, that just means if you're going to go bass fishing, you can stay in bed a little bit longer or at home. You don't have to rush out there and get out there just before the crack of light. Now, speaking of crack of light, one of the cool places right now for me to fish is obviously Wachusett Reservoir, only because we've got about a week left of it being open. Reservoir itself for fishing closes on November 30th, and the fishing this time of year can be spectacular. Brooke and I went out last week and had an incredible day. A lot of big smallies, some decent Lakers, some great sized rainbows in the mix, all on artificials. Now I can't say every day is like that on Wachusett Reservoir, but those chances are there, and there's always the chance of catching a really, really big fish of all types. If you ever looked back into the history of Wachusett Reservoir in the state of Massachusetts, it holds a lot of state records. Reason why is because you can't wade the place, you can't boat it. It's got restrictions, not all of it is open, so make sure you check the website for all those rules and regulations, but get out there because we only have a week left. All right, and with that said, have a wonderful and safe holiday. Happy Thanksgiving. Catch you guys next week.
With all the wind this past week, we have no new entries for the Dreamboat contest. As we enter into the final week, keep in mind that a past Dreamboat Grand Prize winner cannot win the first place Steigercraft again. Sam Dibner, who is currently in first place, would swap position with second place contestant Rob Carazano, making Rob the Grand Prize winner in the contest if it ended today. Of course, there is still time, as entries must be weighed in by November 30th and received by the Fisherman by December 10th. At that time, we'll tally the final standings and notify the winners. As for the Coastal Kayak Clash, we also had no new entries with the same issue, too much wind. So the standings remain the same. Justin Oser is in first, Bob Wagner is in second, and Tom Howard is in third. With one more week to go and a more favorable weather outlook, don't give up hope.
Over in Rhode Island, it's pretty much all tog all the time at this point, and the blackfish fishery has just been off the charts, especially over the last 10 days, even the last 14 days. Just lots of really nice fish being caught, lots of personal bests being broken, and big numbers of double-digit fish. It's hard to compare this year to last year because last year was special in its own way. We had one day last year where there were 2 fish over 20 pounds landed, including the new Rhode Island state record. That makes 2021 special all by itself, but in my estimation or in my observation, the 2022 season might be even more special because of the sheer numbers of large fish that are being caught. Could be a facet of the trophy slot doing its thing. You know, maybe a lot of these big fish that are being caught now were already caught and released once this year. I don't know, but the only thing I can say is that the blackfishing in Rhode Island has been red hot. Guys are fishing deep. They're fishing 55 to 85 feet of water and definitely shading more toward that deeper range. And one guy that's been on it the whole time and has really got his finger on the pulse right now is Captain John Lee from JL Charters.
Had a blackfish trip today, did pretty well, though not as well as before the weather. We're still using jigs. We've gone to slightly bigger baits. We're fishing in 55 to 90 feet, getting some quality sea bass. And I'm going tomorrow, and I'm going to keep going until the weather gets too cold. Take care.
Bottom fishermen that are heading out more toward Block Island are finding good numbers of sea bass. They're finding some codfish, especially on the east grounds. Those species are, of course, possible to find inshore too, especially around Newport, where you got a lot of really deep water nearby. Even, when you're fishing in 60 to 80 feet of water, there's, over 100 feet of water not far away. So codfish come out of there every single year, and it seems to be an above average year for codfish, especially in the early going here, so definitely have a shot at those. The other fish that are getting a lot of press in Rhode Island right now are striped bass, and there's 2 fisheries going on right now that are kind of fighting for supremacy. That is the South County migratory fish and the fish that are now moving into some of these estuaries to winter over. The wintering over fish are, on the whole, easier to target. You know where they are, and there's no real place for them to go. They're kind of getting funneled down into these rivers and ponds, and you can find them from the Taunton River up in Fall River and all the way up. You can find them in Providence. You can find them in the salt ponds along South County. There's some bopping around inside of Point Judith Pond, and there are several other places as well. So Rhode Island has a pretty good population of holdover fish. And when you find them, especially this time of the year, water's still warm, these fish are still trying to put on some weight before it gets really cold. When you find them, the bite can be really good. So especially kayak guys or guys with a small boat just going around with a fish finder on looking for piles of fish, you can really rack up some numbers, and sometimes if you're lucky you can really find some size too. But on the South County end of things, on the surf, which is mostly what these guys are doing, I haven't heard of anyone doing it in the boat. There have been reports this week of sea herring and Atlantic mackerel being bombed by gannets, and on occasion they're coming in close enough for these fish to be targeted from shore. And by all accounts, there's some nice fish out there. There's definitely some fish in the 20-pound class, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are some much larger. Some of you watching may remember, like back in 2006, when we had this late run of herring that came through, and it seemed like on one day, which was the 29th, they all just got pushed right into shore, basically from Point Judith all the way out to Watch Hill. There were just shots of these fish inshore with gannets diving down, and lots of smaller fish, fish in that like 25 to 40-inch class. Not that the 40-inch class fish is small, but a lot of those fish. But there were also decent numbers of like 30 to 50-pound fish that were caught on that day and a few days surrounding that. So it can happen. It can get crazy. It's not over. And, if there's anything that's going to help you feel like you still got a shot, it's those gannets bombing those big schools of bait. So stay the course. You know, we got the new moon right now. That's gonna force some fish to move through. They're gonna move from where they are to a new place. And whenever fish are on the move, they become a little easier to find. And with all that big bait around, you pretty much know where they're going to end up. Now you just got to cross your fingers and hope that they come inshore. Over in Connecticut, the Eastern Sound for the third week in a row now has just been going off with blackfish. Not a lot of really big fish, but lots of keeper-sized fish. Guys are fishing 30 to 70 feet of water. And the fishing's been really good. I was talking to Dale, my partner in crime here at the Fisherman. He was out the other day. They did very well on fish up to, I think he said 8 pounds. And that's been kind of indicative of, or that his results are indicative of what most of these guys seem to be experiencing. They're getting a lot of fish in the like 5 to 8 pound class, with always the shot of a bigger one. And a few fish up to 13 pounds I've heard about, but the bigger fish, unlike Rhode Island, seem to be in the minority. I'll remind you again that tog season will close on Monday. That's November 28th. That's your last day to catch a tog for the 2022 season. But things are looking very good as far as the action goes, and the Sound also offers a lot more shelter. You know, there's a lot more places you can duck out of the wind. So we've got a lot of wind in the forecast, but you may be able to find a place to get out of it and get into some tog before the season closes. The other thing in the Eastern Sound that's going on, there's still good numbers of striped bass. A lot of these fish now are centering around the rivers, though. So again, it's this holdover fishery. This is something that we're seeing across the entire range of this report. But these fish are now moving up into the Thames. They're moving up into the Connecticut River. They're moving up into the Housatonic River and making themselves a little easier to target because you know where they are. So a lot of the guys are putting a lot of emphasis on those spots. They're fishing in the rivers and they're doing well. They're getting a wide range of sizes just like we have all year. We're getting fish from 20 inches to 30 pounds. The Connecticut River seems to be the place that's producing more of the bigger fish. And for a little more in-depth rundown of what's going on there, let's toss it over now to Captain Mike Roy from Real Cash Charters.
Hey, what's up, guys? For this week's Fisherman Report, the big change has been the temperature. We now have what feels like winter-like temperatures. River water temperatures are now in the, you'll probably see them in the mid 40s to 50 degrees, and the Sound temperatures are low to mid 50s. Those big schools of stripers and blues that we had out in the Sound have now headed south. I'm sure all the albies have also headed out of here. We do have some striper action still as the stripers prepare to winter over in the rivers. Those fish are starting to push in to the Sound and into the river. So you could go out there and catch a bunch of schoolies, possibly some slot fish. Also, the blackfish bite is still good, and that should stay good right through the end of the season. So that's all I have for you this week. Good luck.
Now, striped bass fishing is also heating up in the miles surrounding the Housatonic River. There's a little bit more of a varied bite out there. There's some more fish, that are out in the regular surf or out on the reefs. It's a little bit of a different fishery the further west you go, but there are a lot of fish funneling up into the river now, and guys are exploiting that fact by fishing around the mouth of the river or the adjacent beaches. And the bigger fish are being caught at night. A lot of guys are getting them on large soft plastics. The other popular bait there is a darter of any shape or size, and guys are getting some really solid fish there. And every year there's a couple of real horses that come out of there. So if you're in that area, that's definitely a good place to concentrate on. For a little bit more on what's happening further west, let's toss it over now to Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
The striped bass fishing remains fantastic along our beaches and now the mouth of the rivers. The Saugatuck River's had a good bite. The Housatonic is always having a good bite this time of year. The lower part of the river is your best bet. Out front, there's still some bluefish around. There's not as much as there was a couple weeks back, but there's still some gators hanging around chewing on all this peanut bunker. Throwing stuff like soft plastics like paddle tails, little sluggos, small spooks are still really good. And our diamond jig and bite on our deeper water reefs is hit or miss, but when it is good, it's non-stop action. The bass are really schooled up and they hold our reefs really well. There's been a lot of mackerel around too. The owner of the shop was out the other day and they loaded up mackerel at 11B. on sabiki rigs and Scotty rigs. The blackfishing bite remains consistent on our deeper water wrecks. The shallow water bite definitely is a little slower, but there are quality fish in the shallows. It's just not hot and heavy. And looking forward, the mouth of the Housatonic all the way up, way upriver will get really good. All right, thanks and good luck.
And to wrap things up in Connecticut, let's toss it over now to Rowan, Lytle, and hear a little bit about some of the lesser utilized fisheries that we have here in Connecticut.
Hey everybody, looks like we've got decently warm weather coming into Thanksgiving here. Hopefully everyone has a nice holiday and you get an opportunity to get out and fish, because it looks like this may be some of the last of our good fall fishing in the salt especially. Now perhaps the biggest news, I'm sure someone else will report on this as well, is it looks like Atlantic mackerel have returned to western Long Island Sound. Now of course really tiny ones are showing up throughout the sound this summer, but now the same ones that were around seem to still be here, and they're much bigger. And you can actually go out and catch those things on a sabiki and then go live line them for striped bass. So if you want to do something that hasn't been done in our local waters here for years and years, you can catch Atlantic mackerel right now and then go catch some striped bass on those mackerel. Now, of course, the commercial fleet off Massachusetts really harvests those things, and recent data suggests that within the last couple of weeks, they've been harvesting millions of them. Now, those are not the same mackerel, but the more they harvest, the less they're likely to spread throughout their range. Luckily, this year, decrease in quota up in Canada seems like it resulted in us having mackerel for the first time in a very long time. So, if we push for some lowered quotas on the commercial mackerel fishery, we might actually get to have those in our recreational fishery down on the southern end of their range. But good luck, everybody. Hopefully this warm weather really treats you well. Get on some fish. Happy Thanksgiving.
And that's what I have for you guys this week in the reports. I'm wishing you all a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. And I'm hoping that you guys are all going to get out there. I know I'm going to get out there and try to catch something this week. Got to take advantage of those days off, you know what I mean? But if you're just a YouTube subscriber, we appreciate you, but please head over to the website, that's thefisherman.com, and check out what we've got to offer. We've got reports that cover the entire range from Delaware all the way up to Maine, and articles that cover every fishery in that range. We also have 3 editions that you'll get access to all 3, and whatever edition you sign up for, be it New England, which is mine, or New Jersey or Long Island, you're going to get 12 monthly magazines sent to your house, and then during the season, you're going to get another 26 that are sent to your email box every single week with reports, with articles, with everything you need to know what's going on in the fishery of your choice. And we cover it all. Like I said, we cover surf, we cover freshwater, we cover offshore, inshore. I can't even name them all. Everything is covered. Come over and check us out. It's the best $30 you can spend in fishing. And with the holidays coming up, if you've got a fisherman on your list, might be a great idea to get him a subscription. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.